Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, March 2nd. State Senator Kelly Dooner is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. New to Beacon Hill, but ready to bring a Republican perspective to a Democratic supermajority. Her strategy to get things done. It is time to go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding.
And I'm Charmin Sacchetti. Joining us at the table is State Senator Kelly Dooner. She represents the 3rd Bristol and Plymouth District, winning her seat last November. She's one of 5 Republicans in the 40-member Senate. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Great seeing you. Thank you. So let's just touch the bases. You're from Taunton, right?
Yes.
And you flipped a blue seat red. Mm-hmm. Economic issues, fiscal responsibility play well for Republicans in the last election. This winter's heating bills, right at the top of everyone's list, have hit consumers hard. Yes, we have seen some serious cold. It's been cold for January, February, and it's been cold in the winter period. But the governor and the Democratic supermajority, did they drop the ball here, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would argue that everyone dropped the ball with these prices. You know, you have an $800 delivery fee and a $300 usage fee. I don't know, whoever was sitting at the table and said, yes, this is going to work for the Commonwealth is clearly very out of touch with the challenges that families are facing right now.
And reality of that is the rate hike was approved, and we knew about it, air quotes, in early November. But the minute we got heating bills, it was, oh my heavens, what happened?
Right. And that's information I've been trying to get out there. You know, the legislature's not always going to get it right. The governor's not always going to get it right. And I think it's okay to admit this time didn't get it right. The previous legislature and the governor didn't get it right. So that's why I did file legislation on this to hopefully just really spark that discussion on what we can do differently and how we can make changes, because the residents here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts cannot continue to have $1,000 heating bills every month. It's more than most people's mortgages.
What about the governor's response? Do you think she's done enough? Has it been adequate enough?
Until the utility bills that have changed, then no, we have not done enough. Nobody has done enough until we see a significant change, because again, residents right now are struggling to buy groceries or put gas in their car, and then they get a $1,000 heating bill on top of that. Absolutely unacceptable. And until that's changed, no, we have not done enough.
So let me talk political footing. Do you think this issue has given Republicans a chance to gain ground with voters?
For me personally, I don't view it as a Democrat or Republican issue or a party politic issue. This is something that's affecting everybody in the Commonwealth, and we're elected to represent everybody in the Commonwealth. And that's not Democrats, that's not Republicans. Everybody is affected by these utility bills. So I'm hopeful. The legislation I filed did receive bipartisan sponsorship, which tells me that both sides are willing to try and work together.
It's an equal opportunity offender, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, it affects everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Lawmakers have agreed to pump another $425 million into the state's emergency shelter system. I mean, the whole price tag is expected to be at least $1 billion for the whole year. Now, lawmakers tightened up the number of homeless and migrant families in the state, and the length the state can house, and also the length of time that they can stay. Now, Republicans did want them to go a little bit farther, like a 6 or 12-month residency requirement. Democrats say that would be unconstitutional. How do you see this? Have lawmakers done enough to deal with this? Yeah,
another one that, no, we're taking steps in the right direction, but absolutely not enough. I was serving as council president in the city of Taunton when the state came in and took over our hotel. So you have families living in your hotels.
Right.
So this was a topic that, as I'm sure you guys know and everybody knows, that I campaigned on for a number of reasons, but we need to do more. And while I'm thankful that some of the reforms that the Republicans have been asking for over 2 years now are starting to come into play, we absolutely need more. Self-declaring residency, I think that's a very slippery slope. There's really no confirmation of what that is.
When you say self-declaring residency, what does that mean?
You can state, I intend to stay here. That's in that supplemental budget with the requirements. So that's self-declaring. I didn't think that's enough. I think we need to prioritize our veterans, our seniors, and our vulnerable families here in Massachusetts. And I feel strongly on that because while door knocking over the summer, meeting with residents,
heard a lot from people on
I did. And I also ran into vulnerable families, a single mother in particular who was raising 2 children, could not get into housing, was living with a friend. And I think when you think homeless, you think on the street. but that's not always the situation. You know, she was living with a friend and her 2 children.
What about, you know, the governor has said she has a plan to phase out families from the hotels in local communities by the end of the year. First of all, do you think that's possible? And secondly, are you confident that will happen?
Saying you have a plan and executing a plan are 2 totally different things. So until I see that full execution, you know, that's what I'm looking for, is the action behind the words. It's great to say you want to do X, Y, and Z, but to actually execute X, Y, and Z is kind of what I want to see.
Let's expand the conversation to Washington. You have, as you said, you have many immigrant families in your district. So how do you feel about President Trump's calls for mass deportations? That's the first question I'll ask you.
Yeah, well, I think the focus was on criminals, which I supported. As I'm sure you guys know, there was a woman in Rockland who got raped. There were sex offenders out, and I believe it was Douglas, in hotels with young children. That stuff is unacceptable, and that's why myself and the Republicans pushed for that universal background check to make sure that we're not putting our families who are very vulnerable at this time and our children in those kinds of situations. And unfortunately, that did not pass when we tried to put it in the supplemental budget, which is very unfortunate, because I think we really need to focus on, you know, prioritizing the safety of our residents who are in there.
Well, it has become a flashpoint, too, because President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, says, and I'm quoting her, he wants to bring hell to Boston, so he wants to come in armed and swinging.
Yeah, I think, you know, we need to focus on what we can do here in Massachusetts. On the campaign trail, I know a lot of people like to blame this situation on federal government, but I'm focused on, like, what can we do here in Massachusetts? And we can amend the right to shelter law here in Massachusetts, and I think it's our responsibility as legislatures to take that action and not point that blame on other administrations.
All right, the Massachusetts budget, it relies heavily on federal funding. How worried are you about cuts to programs that you see happening, like Medicaid, for instance? And are you concerned that that's going to have a devastating impact here?
Yeah, I think that that's a very realistic concern to have, and it absolutely would have an impact here. I have a very good working relationship with the congressman in my district, Congressman Auchincloss. So I am in communication with him on that, and he's going to keep me updated as far as things progress.
Do you think Republicans nationally should not make these kinds of cuts to Medicaid?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Not for our Massachusetts residents. I think, you know, we got to focus on our residents and what's best for them, and cutting that program, absolutely not.
Well, down that very vein, you have said that you support transparency and accessibility. The Senate and the House have passed their own rules, including what's been described as modest reforms. Voters spoke loudly and clearly, and I'm going to zoom in on the auditor now, allowing the auditor to audit the legislature. I mean, it was overwhelming. But both the Senate and the House have made it clear that they don't want to comply with that law that came with the passing of Question 1. So where do you stand? What do you think about that?
Yes, so I have supported this from day one. I couldn't have signed that petition fast enough to get it on the ballot. The Massachusetts residents, they have mandated us to do that. For me, it's not even a question. I don't see, you know, if you have nothing to hide, let her do the job that the Massachusetts residents had asked her to do.
What do you think the Senate should be more transparent about?
I think you can always improve transparency. A big one for me is, one, putting, if somebody's virtually voting, we tried to push for that with the rules. I think people of the district deserve to know, you know, if their representatives are showing up in person and voting, as well as just making the votes more easily accessible. So I would like to see every single motion voted on. Serving as a Taunton City Councilor, you can find every single vote I've taken, good, bad, you name it. Every single vote I've taken is recorded, and you can easily access it. And I want the same for the legislature in Massachusetts. I would love to have every single vote recorded, because I think we owe that to our constituents and our residents to show them how we're voting, and also not just show them, but make it easily accessible. And having them sit through a 9-hour formal meeting or formal session just to get those votes, I don't think that that's doing enough.
Voting is vital, absolutely, and so is allocation of money, right? If under the old umbrella, you just said it, under the umbrella of, if you don't have anything to hide, what's the big deal?
Right, and just making it easily accessible, I think, is a key or an important factor of this.
What about public records laws?
Yes, I answered those questions actually not too long ago. I'm in support of it. As a city councilor, I was subject to the public records law. I think anybody who is a public servant, the governor included, all the legislature members, anybody who is elected to an office by the public should be subject to the public records law.
Our conversation with Kelly Dooner continues on the record right after this.